The other person I always like to get insight from is Chad Ever. He is the owner of Ever Studios. He's been a friend of the Oakland County MegaCast. You are a business person who offers a lot of business insight. Thank you for being with us here again on the Oakland County MegaCast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Chad, for those not familiar with your business, fill them in with the services that you offer.
Yeah, so we're Ever Studios, my partner Krista and I, and our goal is to provide a creative approach to marketing for solopreneurs, small businesses, and we even work with some medium-sized businesses. So everything from your website design to your social media content, even going into retail setup and training staff on how to be more successful with their sales techniques. So working directly with small businesses, that's where our greatest impact is.
As so many new small businesses, especially gyms, are being able to reopen, what advice would you give them from your standpoint as a consultant?
I think the number one thing right now is you have to have exceptional experiences. You have to put your customers first. We're all adapting. Not everybody has been open this entire time. And so there's new, fresh protocols that have to be in place. And there are some businesses that have been open for a while and still haven't met that expectation. And so you want to make sure that you are listening and getting feedback from, your customers and your clients of what they would like to see, and then adapt to cater to them, because their safety and them feeling heard and cared about, that's the most important thing.
Social media has been key during this pandemic, but I would imagine just as positive as social media can be, it can be devastating to a company as well if someone posts a negative comment. What advice do you have to owners in that regard?
Own the experience. If I was to go on, a search engine and search for a business, and I saw a business with a perfect 5-star rating, and I saw a business with a 4.7, I'm going to do a little research, and chances are I'll end up with that 4.7 because, yeah, they may have gotten some negative feedback, but they owned it and they responded to it and they took the high road and they made things right with that customer. So, really listening and responding appropriately is going to be the best tool, even on negative impact items.
One of the things that we are seeing as the governor is allowing some of these businesses to reopen, there are so many restrictions put on them. And at the end of the day, they're still hiring employees that may not be following all these restrictions, or the restrictions change as well. What can business owners do to make sure that they're following all of the procedures and protocols that are being laid out for them? Because every business is different.
That's a practice that happens whether we're in a situation like we are now or if we're doing just business as usual. We have to get the buy-in of our teams, and in order to get the buy-in from your employees, you have to state what it is that you want done, right? But you have the majority of your conversation needs to be why it's important. And then there's a piece on there of what's in it for them. So you're going to tell somebody, I want you to take the trash out. And the reason that we're doing this is because it keeps our place clean and our customers appreciate it. And what's in it for you is more sales because you have a clean environment that your customers appreciate, right? So what it is, why it's important, and then what's in it for them. And if you can do that and get their buy-in, it's no longer an issue of whether they're doing it or not. They feel empowered and they feel like that they're supporting the business as a whole.
Chad Ever with us, owner of Ever Studios on the Oakland County MegaCast, joining us today. So with that being the case, and gyms in particular reopening in the coming days, reopening next week, Tuesday, what steps should they be taking from a social media perspective now as they're approaching that opening day to keep their customers and any potential future customers informed about what they're doing in terms of how they're reopening and what they're doing in terms of protecting the community from COVID?
Yeah, definitely have their plan in place, have their protocols in place. Everybody understands what's happening. And then once that is all in place, then you're going to start creating content for social media that really lets the public know we are here for you and we want to be here for you, but there are some restrictions, and here's what we are doing to protect you, right? Come from a place of caring, come from a place of, we want to make sure you have the best experience possible. And in order to do that, we need you to work with us at following these guidelines. Make it clear, and still have some fun with it. But at the end of the day, when I see a post, I want to make sure that it's something that resonates with me. And right now, safety is at the top of everybody's mindset.
Chad Ever, owner at Ever Studios, you're a small business owner, but you've also been helping other small businesses navigate the pandemic. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen businesses making during this time?
Putting a protocol in place and then not being dynamic with it, right? So this is the way it is, and they stick with their guns, even though that's not what us as consumers think would be the best or feel is the best way to do it. I'll give you one example without naming names, but there was a restaurant and they had one person running in back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, taking orders and bringing out the orders where everybody else is huddled outside. So if they were to take some feedback, I'm sure some people would have some input on a more streamlined way to do it that was a better experience for them. I personally have not gone back to that business because I sat there for 45 minutes waiting for a meal without any communication from that business. So if they offered an opportunity for me to give that feedback and then they adapted, they figured out a new protocol to put in place, a new system, I think that is going to be huge for businesses as we continue to navigate through all of this.
That is, those are some words of wisdom right there, because we went through one of the same things with a local restaurant, and you want to support these businesses, but at the end of the day, you try to have grace and understand that they may be taxed in different ways, because it's hard for some businesses to be able to get employees right now. But at the end of the day, I'm still a customer, and there's something said about customer service and just being able to speak to people. With you being a small business, what have you had to do in your business to continue to survive, but also any tips that you could give to thrive during this as well?
So my business is it's an interesting business model. We've been since 2003. We've been a remote business, so we've been working with clients from all over the U.S. this entire time. So for us, this remote situation that's the regular every day. So for us, we've been actually quite busy with businesses that are looking to figure out how to segue from a brick and mortar to an online presence, how to best cater to their customers and their clients, and even how to make sure that at the end of the day, their customers are cared for in a way that they've never had to experience this before. So again, I keep going back to adapting, being dynamic, not being set on your ways of what right looks like, taking feedback, observing other businesses. That's going to be huge. You have to have an open mind on what right looks like. And, that's kind of what we do. We come in, we have a conversation with you about your business, and we figure out how to streamline it, maximize your profits, decrease your costs, and really make sure everything is adapted for your customer first.
Chad Ever with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. He is the owner of Ever Studios, joining us today on the Oakland County MegaCast. In terms of advice for virtual sides of these companies going forward after the pandemic, what are you advising these companies to do as they eventually will transition back to their normal, quote unquote, operations, what with the lessons that they've learned from you and from the rest of society throughout this pandemic?
I'm getting a lot of feedback from a lot of businesses that they're finding that actually having remote workforces is working great for them. It was something they had a little bit of growing pains in the beginning, but they're finding that they can actually downsize their brick and mortar presence and still maintain productivity. So setting, solid expectations with your team, having their buy-in, super, super important. And as we continue to navigate back into in-person, setup for businesses, still keep in mind that you need to have, I guess we could call it a backup, right? A contingency plan in place in the event of other things. A lot of us were not prepared for this. I was fortunately already in place to handle it, but there were a lot of businesses, I would say most businesses, that were not prepared to handle a mandatory remote hands-off business model. And a lot of businesses, I know a few that have had to close. It just wasn't working for them. They weren't able to do it, and they've had to segue to different industries. So having that dynamic, business model where you can flex and move is going to be super important in the future.
And let me ask you something, because there are so many different social media platforms out there. Is it better to post pictures or is it better to post video? And if someone is not socially media savvy, is there a way for them to come up to speed? Like, are there certain YouTube videos that they could watch? Or there are so many apps right now. Is it worth paying for some of these apps that you can make these cute, quick, little videos for your business?
Awesome question. So in general, I'm going to give you a real general. So with Facebook, you're going to be looking at a general demographic of 35 plus. Instagram is going to be 35 less and under. And they tell two different stories, right? Facebook is designed for people to connect with people that that are family, that they're coworkers. It's more of a community driven. Instagram is storytelling visually. So based on the people you're trying to get as customers or clients, that's where you need to focus your attention. So if you are somebody who works at a high-end car dealership, photos are going to be huge, right? Connecting with your existing contacts, that may not be quite as solid. You might not get as much out of it. However, if you are, working at a nursing home, working with the people who are taking care of or paying for these folks that need a place, Facebook is going to be the way to do it. And that's where you can really generate some good resonating content for them. So it's all about who you're targeting, both demographically, but also as a person, right? What do they do and where are they? And then that's where you want to focus your attention. Now, as far as paying for apps that are going to take care of stuff for you, content creation can be easier than it seems. Once you get a content calendar in place, you know when you're going to post, you have an idea, you can plan those out for a month at a time and have them scheduled. And natively, Facebook and Instagram allow you to, schedule posts. So that can, free up time. You can dedicate an hour a week and have your entire week's worth of stuff put out. So there are streamlined ways to do it, and we can help a business navigate and put a system in place to make sure that you're efficient while doing those.
So it's so important to know your brand, identify your brand, go after your brand. But I think some people feel like, okay, if I use Hootsuite to schedule these, the same thing I post on Facebook is okay for Instagram, is okay for Twitter or TikTok, and there are so many new ones I can't even keep up with them.
Right.
But that's not the case. Know which platform is best for your audience and then gear it towards that.
Absolutely. And the other thing to consider, Facebook actually penalizes us for not posting natively. So if you are using a third party, you're not going to get quite as many views or engagements if it's posted by a third party, distributor as well. So doing the content calendar and scheduling it natively with Facebook, meaning posting directly from them, not using a third party, is going to get you better reach. Now, if you're a business that has, hundreds of thousands of reach, a couple dropping off is not going to be, so bad in comparison to streamlining your life. But if you're working with 100, 200 followers, dropping those 5 to 10 is kind of a big deal. That's a big number. So it all depends on your brand as well.
Chad Ever with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Chad, just another few minutes with you before we let you go.
Sure.
Anything else that you'd like to discuss today or that you feel would be important for local businesses and potential clients or other people to know as they continue to navigate through this COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for a little while. Now is really a good time to focus on restructuring the core of your business, understanding your processes. I think the last time we met, that was one of my key points. And we are finding ourselves, I'm not going to say getting back to normal, but we are getting back to a place where businesses are starting to grow a little bit more. And if we get to a place 2 months from now where we are doing business really well, are you going to have the time to focus and redo your website that you've been thinking about doing? Start putting together advertising campaigns, having your staff trained up for sales that are going to be closing better, right? Getting better sales efforts in place. So it's still a great time to start investing. We do have the holiday season coming up, and it's going to look different this year than it has any other year. If anybody wanted to, sit down and put a plan together in place, we would love to chat with them. Like I said, my partner, Krista, and I, we work with a lot of small businesses, individual folks, solopreneurs, if you will. And we do work with some medium-sized businesses as well. Our goal is to work with the people who actually are vested with the company. So if if a business owner has multiple locations, we'll definitely work with them. We're just not going to be working with the board because we want the people who genuinely care and are invested in the company to really have the strongest impact.
Chad, before we let you go, I have a question for you. You are a small business owner, so you know the struggles and what it takes to get a business open. So many people during the pandemic who maybe lost their job trying to figure out the next move in their life, and they possibly thought about prior to the pandemic of always wanting to own their own business. What would you advise them to do? Is this a good time for them to try to step out and face their fear and just make it happen? Or is this not a good time to start a new business?
Depends on the business. I think anytime is a great time to take that next step towards freedom, towards doing what you truly love. I've worked with several people during this pandemic who took their hobbies and started making some income off of it. And when it comes to initial investment, it can be very minimal. You can start off for very few dollars and really get your toes wet. It's important to have that true structure in place and understanding your processes, because you want to make your business scalable. You want it to where you can grow exponentially without having to put an equal amount of effort or work into it. And, that's what we specialize in, is helping businesses already in place or helping folks get started with that. So I think it's a great time to actually take that first step.
Sometimes, when life sets you back, maybe it's also a good chance for you to, go with that opportunity or, live out that dream. Face your fear, live out the dream. What do you have to lose at this point in time? Hey, Chad, it's always great having you on the Oakland County MegaCast. You're so full of information and knowledge and advice. Anything quickly that we didn't ask that you think people need to know?
No, we covered a lot today, and even in our last couple, we've covered. So I would just say, go back through the archives, check out the other stuff that you folks have been doing, because you're on here all the time, and great people have been able to share some great wisdom and what they're doing with their businesses. So, thanks for listening to me, but you guys have some great stuff in the archives as well. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, we are so lucky to have this platform to try to bring people of the community together, because I think it's by coming together that we are all going to come out of this crisis stronger. So thank you to you and your team, and always being willing to be a guest here on the Oakland County MegaCast. We wish you all the best. Stay safe and stay healthy, and have a good holiday weekend. Summer's over already. Can you believe that?
I know. It caught up really quickly. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Tyler.
Hey, by the way, I don't see the foosball table behind you.
No, working from home today.
Oh, okay. Well, when you're back open and this is over, Tyler wants to challenge you.
Sure.
You got it. We'll give it a go.
Wonderful.
Have a happy weekend. Chad Everett, the owner of Ever Studios, here with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.